1. I had taken a bus to a town I've never been to before with the intention to move there, because I read that they had cheap rent when it came to the hotels. When I was going to get into the hotel, I had trouble finding the entrance. This man came about riding a bicycle. He was a hefty man, balding and had a grey beard. Attached to his bicycle, he had a wheelchair full of bags and blankets. He usually walks around with that wheelchair for just about everywhere he went. I asked him where the entrance was, and he showed me the way. Lucifer. He gave me an extra blanket, and even a portable charger he claimed a friend gave him, and that he had plenty more portable chargers where that came from, which I did see. He came off as a very kind man who claimed to have been homeless for a couple of years and was willing to help me out. He said many times that he did not want to see me on the streets, and that helping me get a home will be his top priority. He came off as a saint, and I was so touched by his kindness, to where I was almost in tears. I didn't think much of it. When we found the entrance, he followed me in there, and I gave the front desk lady the cash, only to find out that they don't accept temporary IDs. This became a pattern for the rest of our search. I got rejected hotel after hotel. Lucifer seemed so determined to get me checked into a room because he didn't want to see me on the streets. He kept persisting and repeating himself, trying his hardest to convince the front desk workers to let me in, something I really didn't want him doing because I knew that they weren't going to negotiate or give in. I did stick around to see the outcome, but I just wanted to move on and try other places. I only had beef with one of them, who started to argue with me, saying that it was a receipt and not a temporary ID, even though it said right there on the paper and the website I printed it from. This also brought up a lot of drama between the front desk workers and the people he knew, who butted in to help for a short time before they left. We had taken a short break. He walked me to a fast food restaurant and ordered us food. During that time, I also messaged a guy about a room he had for rent. It began to get dark, and I did not want to be out in the streets at night. So I told Lucifer I was going to meet the guy I was talking to about the room, since it seemed like my best chance. I actually had no plans with moving in with him either, since he was acting odd too. I had went into the restroom for a short while, and when I came out, the bags I left there were gone. I panicked. I looked, and then I saw Lucifer there with my bags on his wheelchair. He said that he took them with him to make sure nobody would take them. I was still put off by that, but I just moved on. We then met a woman he knew. He told them everything that happened, and she offered to help, saying she can guarantee to get me a room. So I began to follow her. Now, even though he's the one that asked her for help, he kept calling me to wait up on him, causing me to slow down and having her leave way ahead of me to where I didn't even know where she went. He began telling me that she can't be trusted and that she'll get me in trouble. I snapped, as in, what was I supposed to do? This is when he started to act passive-aggressive, and I began to sob out of frustration. Asking him what was I supposed to do then? Go with me then and help me out if she was just trying to cause trouble for me. He refused. He said, "I'm trying to help you. I sell drugs. I don't want to tell you that. She can't be trusted." I yelled back, "I know that you're trying to help me. I appreciate your help." He then makes fun of me about what I just told him there by asking, "Then why are you crying?" I became outraged and went off on him, answering the obvious, because when I finally do have a chance, you are now holding me back. I ask you to go with me, cooperate, you won't do it. You keep rejecting me and are keeping me from doing anything to make sure nothing goes bad. And you won't do it, and I'm tired, I'm frustrated. I've gotten nothing but rejection all day and I'm tired. Leave me alone if you're not going to help me now like you were before. Leave me alone. Then he went inside one of the hotels, and when he came out told me he'll cooperate, and tried again. After a few more attempts, I told him I was finally leaving. For some reason he didn't want me to leave because he didn't think that I should move in with a stranger. Apparently he wanted to keep trying to get me into a hotel, but I declined. Also, I began to take more caution because, since I especially didn't want to be out on the streets at night alone with Lucifer, I had just met him. So I began to leave, and I told him goodbye and thanked him for his help. He began to ask, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm going to meet up with that guy. I'm taking the bus." I knew there was a bus where I was headed, so that's why I kept going in that direction. When I distanced myself further from him, he began to shout, "There's no bus over there!" I kept walking. I thought about what he said, but I knew there was a bus around the area I was headed, so I didn't stop. "Where are you going? There's no bus over there. You don't even know where you're going." He began to sound very angry. I then told him, "I was there earlier, I saw a bus." While still walking away, he was still following me. He then shouts, "You're going to leave me out here?" I answered, "I can always come back and visit you." I was trying to calm him down. "I have to go now." Then, what he said next really threw me off. "Give me back my charger." So I quickly turned around, gave him back the portable charger and the blanket he gave me, and turned right back around, heading towards the bus stop ahead of him. He kept following me. What he says next threw me off even more. "I thought we were going to rent out and share a room together." I yelled back, "We never agreed to that." "You never said that." His response was, "Oh my God, this is how it always goes when you help people. They fuck you over." I began to ignore him. He was still following me. He was after me. He kept yelling and shouting at me. Now I was even more determined to get away from Lucifer. I saw two street workers, a man and a woman, across the street from the sidewalk. So I decided to aim towards them for help. I crossed the street to get on the other side where they were. I made it there quickly, and I turned around and saw that Lucifer was crossing the street behind me, heading towards me, still shouting at me. I finally made it to the workers and told them what was going on, and there, Lucifer having finally crossed the street, they agreed to help me out, and to keep him away from me while I called the police. When Lucifer came, he began to lie and shout at them. "She took my money! She has my money!" While I was calling the cops, Lucifer yelled, "Oh, you're calling the police, huh? I'm calling them too!" Then he pulled out his phone and seemingly dialed a number. Since there were so many cars and a lot of noises, I couldn't understand what he was yelling on the phone. "Okay, you see that? I called the police too." While waiting on the police, he kept trying to get even closer, to do who knows what. Every time one of the workers turned around because they had to put some things up, he would start coming towards me, trying to get closer again and again. But the worker was persistent and stopped him at his every attempt. Then a cop finally came and separated him from me. I was terrified out of my mind and was sobbing to the cop. It got more infuriating from there. The cop came off as very rude and borderline verbally abusive toward me about the situation. He made fun of me and how I was talking when I was in tears by saying, "I need you to speak English, now stop crying." He told me to take a deep breath and tell him what happened. He then talked to Lucifer. Lucifer also starts lying to him, also saying I took his money. He wanted to take all of my money and leave me homeless and stranded, flat broke. So, we were there even longer because they had to find the truth about whose and whose money. Lucifer was being so dishonest and deceitful, and tried his hardest to make himself look like the good guy. When the street workers drove off, he even said, "God bless you." Then another cop came about. Not sure if it was because whether or not Lucifer actually called the police, or if it was because the other cop called for backup. So I had to explain to him about what was going on. He seemed genuinely concerned about the situation, unlike the other guy. After them going back and forth, being asked if he threatened me in any way and such, they finally decided that I was telling the truth and he wasn't. They both came to me and said that I was free to go. A great sense of relief came over me, as well as gratitude. Then the smart-mouthed cop killed that moment with another rude comment. "We need to get you too far away from each other. We can't be here all night." What was with this guy? First Lucifer, now him. The recent cop asked if I had someone to come get me. I attempted to call the people that I knew with no luck, as they couldn't help me. One of them even went on a short tangent in a text about how they couldn't, which again didn't help. I told them that I had no one to come get me. I've heard of cops helping out people with rides, so I asked if they couldn't. They said that they couldn't, and once again the rude cop responds with, "This is not a taxi." with a smug grin. I would have been just fine with a no. That comment was unnecessary. The recent cop told me that there was a bus down the street I could take, and that if Lucifer starts harassing me again, that I can just go into a public restaurant around there and tell them. That was the best thing I'd heard all day. Get on the bus and leave this town. Before I left, the recent cop turned around. The three of us saw that he was getting on a city bus that was close by, without any of the things on the wheelchair. The recent cop seemed concerned and questioned that as well. Then I told them goodbye, thanked them for their help, turned the other way, got on another bus, and left the town. The man who I thought would be my best friend was an archenemy in disguise. He had me believe that he wanted to help me when it was really just for himself, a wolf in sheep's clothing. I know that I might get judged, attacked, and/or blamed for everything that happened, but I don't think that I should be the one attacked when it comes to those events. However, if you insist, go ahead, I'll be waiting. I'm sharing this because I want to get my story out there. I want to bring more awareness to these types of situations. Since this happened, I think what would have happened if I hadn't made the decision to leave when it got dark? What if? Since this happened, I am wiser now, and my advice is to be careful with who you open up a conversation with. So Lucifer, and the rude cop, let's not meet. 2. This happened to me about 6 months ago. My boyfriend at the time and I were sitting in the living room of my apartment when I heard a knock at the door. My ex asked if I was expecting anyone, and I said no, but I would take a look just in case to see who was out there. He stayed on the couch while I looked through the peephole. The apartment was set up in a way that didn't allow him to see me from the living room to the front door. Outside there was 2 people. One young African-American man looked about mid-20s, and a much older Asian woman who looked to be about 60-ish. For whatever reason, I decided to open the door. When I opened it, the young man says, "Hi, we are part of so-and-so religion, and we would like to talk to you about it." I have a 50-pound dog who was trying to get out, so I said, "Sure, hold on, I'll come outside because my dog is trying to get out." This was a huge mistake. I want to clarify that this was very out of character for me. However, I had recently become closer to God and was wanting to give these people a chance, as I didn't believe any harm would come from me just listening to what they had to say. I step outside and close the door behind me and listen to what they have to say. They say something about how they pray to Mary instead of God, because she was the one who birthed Jesus. I don't exactly remember, but it was something like that. I thank them for their time, and then say something like, "But thank you guys, stay safe out there." The Asian woman visibly starts panicking and says things I don't understand in a different language. When I look to her partner to see what he has to say about her behavior, he says, "No problem, maybe you want a pamphlet though." I reply, "Yeah, sure," not wanting to be rude and also to do some research on the religion, as I've never heard of it before. The guy then says, "Okay, great, we have them in the car. You can come with us, we're parked right in front." This is when I started to feel weird. I lived on the 3rd story of an apartment complex that was really not the best, and there were no cameras anywhere. Why would they leave their pamphlets in the car if they were going door to door? It wouldn't make sense to have each person they intrigued come down to the car, and the parking spots outside my house were almost all handicapped, and no one can park there. This woman grabbed my arm and started directing me to the stairs. In a split second, I said, "You know what, I'm a Christian and very happy in my faith, but thank you both anyway." The woman again says something I don't understand, and the man goes, "Are you sure? We can get it to you fast. We're parked right there." My heart genuinely sank into my butt. I started sweating and looking for ways to remove myself from her grasp and the situation entirely. I know I must have looked panicked, and I was, but what do? How do I get away from the immediate danger I put myself in? I wasn't thinking and blurted out that I was very sure, yanked my hand from the woman who ended up scratching me from her grasp, and bolted inside. I locked the door behind me and told my boyfriend what happened. That's when he looked at me with a face I've never seen him make before in my life. He tells me about how that specific religion had been in the news the last few weeks, because women have been going missing. and the only thing they have in common is some of their neighbors saying they had been solicited by the group the same day or around the day of their neighbor's disappearance. I read some articles to fact-check what he was saying, and he was right. The police were saying that it might be in connection to a sex trafficking ring that was moving from neighboring cities, and now were suspected to be in ours. It gets weirder somehow. I seriously freaked out and went straight to Facebook Live to share with my friends, because I wanted to warn whomever I could. I set the privacy to public after the live ended, and I went on with my life, still a bit shaken, but I was fine. 1 week later, I get a Facebook message from someone who is, I'm assuming, part of that religious group, telling me that I need to take the post down, and she was not nice about it. After I said I wouldn't because I wanted to educate anyone who lives in my town, she told me I was a spoiled egg, and I would regret ever making the video. I was so scared that I blocked her immediately, set the video to private, and called the police. The police said they couldn't do much as I didn't have the make or model of the car they were in, and there was no proof they had even come to my apartment or who it was. Here's the part that still freaks me out. When I went to show them the messages from Facebook, I went to unblock the lady and her page was completely deleted. I still had the messages, but it was like I was talking to a little gray default profile picture. Even the name had changed to something that seemed to be random clicks on the keyboard. I want to end this by saying I am working on not being such a trusting idiot with people. I know the things I should have done differently, and still get upset with myself for how stupidly I acted. And so to the religious group and sex trafficking pair that showed up at my door, and the Facebook lady, whatever your motives were, let's not meet again. The name of the group is God the Mother, and to clarify, I was at my college apartment when this happened. I hope you'll all stay safe. It's a crazy world out there. 3. Background. I love karaoke. It feels so expressive and cathartic to me that it helps me get through all of my bad days. I'm from a small regional town in Australia, so my choices for karaoke was pretty much one a week at an underground bar. I went weekly, knew the regulars, and would occasionally drink until I had to do songs from pure memory, as the rest of my senses were shot. This was one of those nights. I was one drink in with a friend of my sister's and a director that was auditioning me at this karaoke night who also knew the other girl. I'm very socially anxious, so I kept to myself and ignored the strangers in the bar. I sang a couple songs, got the part in the play, and my night wrapped up when the douchebag friend of the director kept harassing the girl who was 1 year younger than me and about 45 years younger than him. I went to follow her because she was drunk and vulnerable, and there's no way I'm going to leave her alone in that state. I got the douchebags that followed us away from her and promised the director and her friend that I would look after her and make sure she got home safely. God, I should have just left when she refused for a lift and insisted we find her friend. She calls up her friend who is on loudspeaker, and we both hear swearing, screaming, and crying. She runs, and I go after her in case she needs my help. We find 3 guys walking away with one girl sobbing on the ground, bleeding as they had just punched her in the face. I watch as her friends help her, and I turn my back to make sure the guys are walking away before I look back and they are all gone. Noticing the absence of the people one of these guys just punched, and no one around, they started walking back to me and surrounding me, where, at this point, my fight-or-flight response turned into freeze and friend, and hopefully these dudes would go away. I'm immediately running through in my head if I should try to take them on, but despite them looking a year younger, they were taller and built for the gym, and 3-on-1 fighting should be avoided. One of the guys starts talking to me and saying that he was watching me at karaoke all night, and how wonderful I was and how I should join them, as he grabs my hand and starts tugging me towards a decrepit, abandoned building, with no light coming from the area. I pull my hand out of his and back away slowly, just repeating, "Sorry, but I have to go meet up with my friends, but it was lovely meeting you." What happened next sent chills down my spine and sent me into a state of shock. One of the guys moved behind me to block my path, and the other friend blocked me from stepping around the main offender. And I just hear the words, "Oh, come on, come with us." We know you come here every week. Guy starts to feel my breast and I step away. We've come so far from the town. It's only an hour away. And after talking to this guy who runs the karaoke, we know so much about you, and I'm sure we will bump into one another again if you don't come hang out with us now. To this day, I don't know how the heck I didn't shit myself or maintain my poker face, but I did. After 5 more minutes of this harassment, and trying to pull me into the dark, which I refused to go into, even if I had to punch them and risk getting beaten up, I just kept edging away. Finally, the group of people had come back and the drunk girl I was with started shouting obscenities and told me to run. I did a loop around a weirdly shaped post office and ran back to the karaoke place, where I told them what happened, and the guys were still following me. They didn't believe me, as they were inside the bar the entire time because it was winter and cold outside, and told me that they couldn't let me in even to hide from the guys because it's policy. No one is allowed to enter after 11 p.m., no matter what. Absolutely sobbing at this point, I ran to my car and drove off with the guys watching me drive away. I see a police car stop beside them, which stopped them from watching where I was driving, and I got the fuck out of there. Filed a police report 2 days later, with some of their words telling me that if I told anyone they would find me, weighing heavily on me. Nothing ever came of it, as the police didn't know where to start looking. The cops who stopped the guys never actually got their names, or realized they were the dudes who punched the girl in the face. And the policeman who took my statement, not giving two shits despite the more terrifying details of what they were saying to me, for the 20-minute-long encounter. In response to what happened to me, the club never changed the 11 p.m. rule. It just said if someone asks, we will walk them to their car. I said, are you even going to tell the patrons that this is an option for them? So they know and your staff know? I got a no, and only attended twice more after this, and to this day, I'm never going back. To the 3 guys on the street, the guy who ran the karaoke who gave my full information to those guys, and the scumbags including the director, another 4 stories worth of content, I sincerely want to tell you, let's not ever meet again. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to 3 True Scary Stories. Episode 464. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Well, apparently we had a bit of a storm in the UK the other day. I think we're still feeling the after effects of it. It's been very windy and rattly today, which, given that the letterbox in my front door is broken, and any stiff wind kind of makes it sound like someone's trying to actually, chap the letterbox to get your attention. That's not fun. Makes me jump every time. You think I'd be used to it, but it makes me jump every time. Right, hopefully if all has gone according to plan, by the time you guys get this, I will be in my first day of a week's break. Doesn't mean you won't hear from me at all during that break, but it means all my videos should be done in advance. Okay, and with that, I'm going to head off for now, so until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.